This is part 2 of the chapter Deep Water by William Douglas. Fear is a reaction, but courage is a decision. In the previous part, we saw that the near drowning experience has left the author with two choices. Now he is standing at a place where he has two options, either to continue his life with a fear of water with aquaphobia, or what he can do, he can gather all his courage and confidence and he has to face his fear. So which path is he going to choose? Let us see that. Now let's come to the text part, continuation of the text part. Now a few years later, now we have moved ahead in time when the author had near drowning experience in swimming pool. Now the story has moved ahead a few years. Now author, he still wants to be near water bodies, he still wants to swim. When he came to know the water of the cascades, now cascades of waterfalls that fall as in slopes as stairs, he wanted to go near the water body. But whenever he went near any water body, either it was a river or it was a lake, the terror that had seized him in the pool, his aquaphobia, it would not allow him to go near any water body. The terror had possessed him completely. Icy horror would grab his heart and his legs would become paralyzed. Now here in the picture you can see the picture how a cascade looks like. Now this fear or aquaphobia has been stated as a handicap by the author. He says that whenever he went for canoeing, you can see a canoe in the picture here. Wherever he went for canoeing or for fishing, he again and again he had this haunting fear of water. Water had become something that haunted him. It deprived him from any kind of happiness that was because of a water body, whether it was canoeing, whether it was boating, whether it was catching fish, or whether it was swimming. He was deprived of any kind of joy related to water sports or adventure. The author had used every possible way that he knew to overcome his fear of water. So finally, one October, he decided to get a swimming instructor who would guide him and who would help him to overcome his fear of water. Now he went to a pool and practiced 5 days a week, an hour each day. So we see that he, in his mind, he has decided that he will get rid of this paralysis. He would get rid of his fear. Now how the instructor taught him to avoid the fear that was there in his mind, to make him feel safe rather, he put a belt around him and he attached a rope to the belt, and that belt went through a pulley that ran on an overhead cable. So whenever he panicked, he was pulled up by that cable. He held on to the end of rope and we went back and forth, back and forth. So first he was learning how to stay calm, how not to be panicked while he was in any water body. So this may seem to be very petty, very simple, but this is the thing. He had to practice how not to be panicked while being in water. This was the first step of the author for learning how to swim and how to overcome his fear of water. But this simple exercise was not easy for him. On each trip across the pool, a bit of the panic seized the author. Although he was attached with that rope and pulley, but still he was panicked. Each time the instructor relaxed his hold on the rope and I went under. Now whenever he was under the water, the panic took him over and over. The old terror, it returned and his legs were paralyzed. Aquaphobia took him over completely. Now it took 3 months, it's a quite long time, before the tension began to slack, to dissolve. Now the second exercise that was taught to him by the instructor, that was to put his face under water and exhale, and then again to come to the surface and inhale. He repeated this exercise hundreds of times, putting face under water, exhaling, coming up to the surface, inhaling the air. Bit by bit he shed part of the panic. It is said that Rome was not built in a day. So the fear that developed within a short time, for shedding that panic, he has to labor a lot. For overcoming his fear, he has to do a lot of effort. The next exercise that the author did was, the instructor held him and he was just waddling his legs in the pool. We all know that whenever he entered any water body, his legs used to paralyze. But this situation gradually relaxed and finally he could command his legs while he was in water. Thus, piece by piece, slowly and steadily, the instructor was able to convert the aquaphobic Douglas into a swimmer. That is why it is said, piece by piece he built a swimmer. And when he had perfected each piece, he put them together. So different exercises he used, some to wipe away his psychological fear, some to wipe away his paralyze when he was there in water, and then he put them together in an integrated whole. In April, see the time period, October to April it took to wipe away the aquaphobia that was there in the mind of Douglas. So now the instructor said that now you can swim. But instruction was finished. Douglas was not satisfied on his part. He still wondered if what will happen if the instructor is not there. If I'm alone, still would I be able to swim? So he tried it. He tried to swim in different water bodies, and sometimes the old terror would return. But instead of being terrorized, he decided to face his fear. He talked to his fear. He said that, are you trying to scare me? You cannot. Look, he looked straight into the face of terror and he would again repeat his exercise, going to another length of pool. From April till July, he practiced on his own, but he still was not satisfied. He was not sure till this time that the terror had left. So he went to Lake Wentworth. He dived off a dock at Triggs Island and swam 2 miles across the lake to Stampact Island. Now he did different strokes, but sometimes the old sensation returned in miniature, in small portions, but it was still there. But now, instead of running away from his terror, from his fear, he said that, you cannot do anything to me. Your terror has been personified. So one fine day, he dived into a lake and swam across to the other shore without even a miniature form of the old sensation. So he swam just like Doug Corcoran. He's a swimmer, and he shouted with joy because he knew that this is the moment of realization when he had conquered his fear of water. Now, this experience has a deep meaning for the author. He can say that only people who have faced this kind of stark terror can realize or can associate with the experiences of author. He says that terror is not there in death, but terror is there in fear of death. So it is not death which is terrible, but fear of death. Once we are able to conquer that fear, death is no longer something that is going to trouble us. Quite spiritual. Now he says in death there is peace. This realization, you remember when he was there in the swimming pool, till the time he was afraid, he was panicking. Now when he realized he cannot be saved, he gave up. At that time he felt at peace. So this he realized that Death is not something to be afraid of. Anyway, it is the absolute reality of our life. He had experienced both the sensation of dying and the terror that fear of it can produce. So, sensation of dying is something very different. We remember when he was in the pool, when he thought that he is going to die, he felt at peace as if he was in the lap of his mother. But the fear of death was something that troubled him, even when he was in the swimming pool. At last he felt released, free to walk the trails and climb the peaks. Now he could do whatever he wanted to do. He had brushed aside his fear. Now one landmark he had achieved. Now he could move ahead in his life. The chains of terror that were pulling him back, now he had broken those chains. He was walking as a free man now. Now, what is the point of reading this chapter? What did we learn? The story teaches us the lesson of determination and willpower. What great things can be achieved. Nothing is impossible if we have the willpower and if we have the determination. As a result of an unfortunate incident with a bully, that big bruiser boy, the writer had developed an extreme fear of water or aquaphobia. However, he decides to face his fear and works hard until he becomes a good swimmer. Now, for this, he had to face his fear again and again by deliberately challenging himself to swim in various places. In this way, he is able to get rid of his fear completely. So this way he finally conquered his fear. Now students, the answers to the quizzes given in the previous assignments, they are there available in PDF form. You can check them, and whatever assignments, question answers, whatever you are getting, you keep completing them in your literature notebook. That's all for this video. Thank you.